Hello and welcome to the Impact Nations podcast. My name is Tim. I am your host, and a little bit different today. We actually have been having massive internet troubles for over 48 hours here at the Impact Nations offices, and that's obnoxious. What it means is our fancy pants broadcast studio over there isn't worth much to us because we can't actually plug it into the interwebs and broadcast to you. But the show must go on. We wanted to touch base with our loyal viewers and listeners today, so I thought I'd just throw it on my phone here and we'll just at least touch base with Dad a little bit. We were supposed to have a special guest this week. Father Kenneth Tanner is actually going to join us next week instead because we didn't have internet, so I couldn't host a Zoom call and broadcast out to YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. So this week, instead, Dad and I are going to have a little chat. So here, I'm going to wander in. I think he's waiting for me at the studio. And so we're going to walk it. You're getting like a inside view of our offices here. That was my office. And now we're into the little broadcast booth here. Down here is where all of our fancy equipment is and where Isaiah usually sits. And then walking in here, now watch out, you're going to get some fancy big old lights in your face in a sec, I think. There we go. There's some microphones and all sorts of stuff. But we're just going to go super low tech and sit here at the desk. There's Dad. All right. Hi.
And hi.
Welcome to an odd episode of the Impact Nations podcast.
It's very odd, and there's something else very odd.
What's that?
This isn't working.
Uh-huh. I think somebody's a whiner. Yeah, all right. He's going to cheat. I see what's happening here. He's displeased because
now I'm more comfortable.
You're still shorter.
Oh man, it could be worse.
We get you a little booster seat, like at the movie theaters or whatever.
Like I used to carry around for you. I can't get it up anymore.
Oh my goodness,
right.
This thing has gone off the rails already. We've only been broadcasting for a minute.
Yeah.
All right, so welcome to the Impact Nations podcast. My name is Tim. I am your host. I am with Dad. You can call him Steve. I call him
Or
Dad.
Shorty.
Shorty works too.
This is just too terrible.
He's very upset about this. He will not let it go. He nearly fell down on the floor trying to adjust his chair.
All right.
If you are listening to this only, you're missing some comedy gold here.
This is top quality.
All right, so we've been without internet for several days here. So we've been kind of working from home a little bit. We thought it might be back up and running
we've been
today,
working with frustration from here.
Indeed.
And
we're making it work.
Did you guys know that Wi-Fi is pretty important in an office?
One of the things that I've been thinking about this week is we're getting a taste of what life can be like for some of our partners, actually, who from time to time, we've got a meeting scheduled or whatever, and then they suddenly say, I'm sorry, the internet just went down, we can't connect, or we can't send you that file we were going to send, things like that. And
we want to say, we'll try harder.
Yeah. And now I can empathize a little bit better with them.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
This is still just...
Boy, just, sit up, I'll slouch, everything will be okay. I am slouching, I want you to know that, by the way, so that I fit in the frame because I'm so huge, I was going to go right off the camera.
Yeah, he's just slouching, but I'm tall for my height.
Indeed. Tall enough to reach the ground.
Okay.
All right, so next week we're going to have Kenneth Tanner here. He was going to be with us this week, and he very graciously agreed to delay a week.
Yeah, pretty excited about that.
Yeah, what's he going to talk about?
Well, Father Kenneth Tanner is a renowned biblical scholar. He knows an awful lot about an awful lot. Early church history, church fathers. He has done with our friend Brad and Father John Bear. They've done an incredible job of going through John's Gospel. And Matthew is also very dear to his heart. So he's going to come next week and just give us some insights, he's going to add some spice to our concluding episode on the Sermon on the Mount.
Yeah, and I suspect that, I don't know if you caught our episode with Cherith Nordling, whatever that was, 8 weeks ago or so. I suspect this will be similar, where we just kind of wind him up a little bit and then let him go,
Yeah.
and ask one question and he'll just have
And
plenty to say.
he and Cherith are good friends. They're part of that open table group, and she had a great time with us. We found out
Yeah.
from
We'll have to
my
have her
father
back,
Kenneth,
too. She
so
was
we're
amazing.
pleased.
All right. One other podcast note, by the way. We were on the phone with our friend of the podcast, Brad Jerzak, yesterday, just sharing some stories and catching up and asking him if he would come join us again soon. He's got a new book coming out in just a few days, actually,
Yep.
July 20th, called A More Christ-Like Word, that is really going to be teaching us how to read the Scripture through the lens of the cross, through the lens of
Yes.
Christ. And so we wanted to have him on and talk to us a little bit about that. And really, the one thing that you really wanted to talk to him about was the inerrancy of Scripture, and that doctrine and what his take on it is.
So he's going to talk about inspiration, infallibility, and inerrancy.
Yeah.
And what did he say? What
He
the
said,
heck?
yeah, he said, inerrancy, infallibility, inspiration. What the heck? That must have been the second title for his book that didn't
Probably.
quite get past the publisher.
By the way, when we say it's a great book, at least when I say it's a great book, this I know. I had the privilege of doing one of the endorsements, and so I got an e-copy, several months ago, and I told Brad that this might be the best book he's ever written, and he's written some humdingers.
I'm looking forward to it.
When
I
is
didn't
that
get a
gonna be?
preview copy because I don't rate, but
No.
that'll be August 10th is when he's coming on. So the book comes out July 20th. It'll be automatically downloaded to my phone, so that gives me a couple weeks to read that before he
And-
gets on, so I don't look like a schmo.
A More Christ-Like Word.
Yeah.
Just to review
Yeah,
that.
and
title.
you can pre-order that on any of your favorite bookstores.
Yeah.
And it'll be out very soon. All right, you were on the phone with Richard this week. Do you want to just give our friends a quick
yeah.
update on what's happening in Uganda?
We love Richard, don't we?
he's just knocking it out of the park
And
again
as
this
we
year.
keep reminding everyone in this incredible, we used to say year and a half of COVID, even without us being able to travel overseas, our partners have just stepped it up like 5 levels.
Yeah.
And so one of the things is Richard, about 5 years ago, I went to Kalonga, which you know is an isolated community, with Randeep, and we taught on house church, and then we left, and I didn't really hear a lot of stuff coming out of that. But I was just reading day before yesterday, Mark 4:28, the all by itself principle. The kingdom's like somebody who planted a seed, and he went away, and he didn't know how it happened. And so we have discovered through our feeding program, and you can talk about that in a moment, that Richard has been able to get food to desperately hungry families, not just in Kalonga, but in Kampala, the capital, where he has a house church. He said, yeah, I took everything that Randeep taught, and they weren't quite ready for it in the village, but we went into the city, and he says, every Thursday, Emma and I have a house church with 130 participants, and they've planted 4 other house churches.
I've been in Richard's house.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know how he's pulling that off, just in terms of actual square footage.
Yeah, I think
I mean, Ugandans are small.
Yeah. I think the term house church that's the focal point. I think it's house, yard,
Yeah.
dirt, laneway church. Anyway, it's really exciting. And the interesting thing he said is, one of the things that he really picked up from when we were teaching, he said, all are welcome, but they know that the expectation is that everybody participates. They're not passive. So they come with a scripture or a testimony or a Bible story or something. And, when we do what the scripture tells us to do, Book of Acts, Paul's teaching, there's just all healthy things grow.
Yeah.
And so now he's got 130 and they won't leave. So he just keeps planting more of them.
He sent some beautiful stories and stuff to me earlier this week, talking about the incredible generosity of members of that house church, who basically had been given some funds to eat because the lockdown meant there was no more income and things, and they immediately turned around and gave away half of what they had been given to other members of the church to make sure everybody had enough. And that really touched my heart. Yeah. That's just seeing the church in action. It's in Kalonga, they are feeding, we've mentioned it here on the podcast before, they're feeding out of the Hope and Care kitchen at the school. So the kitchen was sitting dormant because the school is closed, obviously. But we were able to partner with Hope and Care Ministries to begin feeding meals out of there. And I was really worried that when we started doing that, when we opened up the window of the kitchen and started handing out meals in really it's at the center of the community there, I was concerned that we may just be overrun because the need is great. And so we started with, I think we said we were going to try and feed 300 meals at a time. And Richard told you that actually they're feeding every day hundreds of meals, but they have not been overrun. The attitude there is not one of clutching and grasping, but one of if you've got enough, you have a sense of enough and make room for others who don't.
He was excited. That was one of the first things he said to me when I asked him about how the feeding's going. He said, it's wonderful because people are not being greedy, he said, and it is only the people who really, really need it. Yeah. And a lot of children. And then as well with the motorcycle, nearly called it a boda, which by the way is Uganda for motorcycle. They also have, I think, about 70 families where, and he sent us some pictures, where there's people, usually elderly, that are bedridden. Yeah. They cannot get out, and so they take the food to them.
They're taking the food to them, and while they're doing that, they're just praying with them, just spending time in community with them. Because, of course, there's also just the gift of fellowship. Yep. Because they're so cut off. And again, because transportation is very limited right now, people can't come and visit them and things. So because we've got that motorcycle, we can go and just spend time with them, just sharing the love of Jesus with them. And that's so powerful.
They're just doing a great job. And things are progressing. Even with COVID, we're still hoping beginning of August, I think, to get in the refugee camp.
In the refugee camp, they'll be breaking ground first week of August on their garden. So we'll be doing a half-acre demonstration garden that will feed 20 families. And I told them, I said, just be warned, the amount of labor it takes to get this thing started, to break ground, is very, very intense, but the reward will be huge because then it'll become a sustainable garden for those 20 families, but also a demonstration garden where others from the community can come and learn these principles for very high yield, high nutrition gardening, farming, that they can actually go and do in their own front yard, really. I say front yard, these refugee camps it's pretty scary, the conditions they're living in, but many families do have a small bit of space, and so they're going to be able to learn how to grow nutritious food for themselves. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
I am too. I'm just I'm delighted with the partnership with Thrive. They're great people to work with. I have a relationship going back more than 30 years with the founder. But the other thing that's very encouraging to me about this is many of you will recall that you gave very generously on almost no notice just before Easter, because we found out there's this whole section of that refugee camp, which has over 130,000 people in it, but there was a section of the extremely poor and sick. And so we were able to get, for Easter, not just an Easter meal, although that was great and people came to the Lord, but many weeks of food. But then food runs out. And so now we've moved from relief to development, relief to sustainability.
Sustainability, and that's our goal anytime we can.
I'm very, very excited with that.
Me too.
Yeah.
India, just a brief update. I got an update from Meenakshi this week from India. Listeners of the podcast would know that we have, for the last several years, funded many children that have been working as indentured servants in the brick factory. We've been funding schooling for them so that instead of spending their days piling bricks, making bricks, they're actually able to go to school. And as you can imagine, this project was really put on hold during COVID because schools have been effectively closed this entire time. There have been a few false starts where we thought they were going to get back to school,
Yeah.
and then very quickly they had,
Yeah.
I don't even know if they opened the schools or if they opened them and quickly shut them down, but it's effectively been on hold for the last year and a half. But rest assured, our partners are still developing relationships, still maintaining relationships in these what they call brick colonies, these brick factories.
They're doing some feeding.
They're
for the
doing
kids?
feeding, yeah. So our COVID feeding fund has them in there on a regular basis, feeding these communities because of course one of the big things about the children going to school is that they get a nutritious meal at school. So when school shut down, that burden of getting them fed was back on the parents. And you may recall when we first discovered these communities, they were mixing brick dust with their food just to try and bulk it up a little bit because they were so hungry. So that's the level of hunger that they've been facing. And you can imagine during COVID, it's only gotten worse. But one of the really interesting things is that our partners are now actually working on developing relationships in yet another brick factory because the generous donors of Impact Nations have provided enough that we can actually begin to reach out to another community. This one is closer to the city, and they're building a relationship with the owner of the factory because it's really important we get buy-in from the owner, because actually what we're suggesting is taking some of his workforce and removing it, and so we need the factory owner to be on board. But also parents. This is one of those things where when we discovered that the parents weren't immediately, not all of them were immediately excited to send their kids to school. It's a complicated process, but effectively the families do get paid to work. It's just that they're paying off a debt that they're paying off the interest on a debt.
Interest is higher than what they get paid each day.
But that means that the children are helping to pay that interest or whatever, and so to remove them again from the workforce can be a scary thought for the parents. But as we engage with them, as we talk to them about the value of education and breaking this generational poverty, they begin to get on board. So our team has begun feeding at this other brick factory, working with the brick factory owner who is very open-minded to this, and families are beginning to really get excited about the possibilities. They sent some photos just a couple days ago with just the team in the factory, just talking with people as they work. You can see these teenagers sitting there working and stuff, kids hanging on equipment and things, and our team is just there chatting with parents and things like that. So really excited to see, even when the project ostensibly can't move forward, they're still planting seeds so that as soon as the opportunity is there, we're going to be able to rescue that many more kids.
Which will put us way over 1,000 kids, won't it?
Oh yeah, well we're already at 1,300 kids.
Oh,
so
man.
We're gonna when schools finally open this year, it's going to bust wide open again. So stay tuned.
We never know how much freedom we have, so I'll leave that to you. But you communicated the story of the man who worked in the brick factory.
Yes, we shared that story here, and you can. I think you can maybe find it on our website. I have to think about what we've been allowed to share and what we haven't, but because things can be sensitive in India. But what's happening through all of our projects is that the kingdom is being demonstrated both supernaturally and practically.
Yeah.
So never is it just about benevolence. It's always about, sometimes it's just planting a seed. Other times it's just making disciples right then and there. But the fruit that we're seeing long term is quite extraordinary.
Because we still have 40 teams out every day feeding 1,500 meals.
Absolutely, yeah.
Among the very poorest. And
COVID Relief Center is still going on, by the way. They've still got 20 oxygen concentrators that are running pretty much 24/7.
They are, and I got a report that's great. There's people who are on death's door going in, and who are leaving healthy.
People who were told by doctors, basically, there is no hope for you. Your lungs are too damaged. You cannot get better. And wouldn't you know it, they come to the COVID Relief Center very sick, and they walk out feeling very good. Imagine that. I'm just going to leave it at that. How could that happen?
Yes, we'll leave it at that. This is great. You know, folks, the stuff that is still going on all the time. I mean, we all understand the summer things get a little slower, July and August, except our Aussie friends. But they're not slower overseas. There's people encountering directly the gospel every single day. The fruit of it just grows and grows. We've got that wonderful new building for Annabelle, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
I hope everybody's aware of that.
Yeah, we talked about it here a couple weeks ago, I think,
Okay.
Isaiah and I. But yeah, brand new, well, not brand new, but new to us, a building that is now 7 bedrooms, a house, 7 bedrooms instead of 4, way more square footage. And that's for the shelter, for the remnant generation, where they're caring for these young girls that have been abused. And then also space for the School of Purpose, way more space for the School of Purpose.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
Keeps growing.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we can say in a country near India, but it's really growing there.
Indeed.
And so it's terrific. So
It is.
we celebrate with our partners overseas, and we celebrate with you for what
the
God's
Impact
doing.
Nations family.
It's amazing. It kind of, some of this sort of ties into where we're going. We've got Father Kenneth next week, and then we started on a very new section of Matthew's Gospel. And we're going to look at Matthew 8 and 9, which are the miracles of Jesus. Not all of them, but he's clustered 2 chapters thematically. And we're going to see more than, Jesus heals and this seems to be how it works. We're going to begin to see how Matthew has structured that to reveal the Logos, to reveal the one who holds all of the cosmos together. And that is exactly what was in his mind as he put together 8 and 9. It gives us a further opportunity, folks, to begin to read the Gospels differently, the Scriptures differently, to go deeper, to go into meaning that was put in there from the very first word. So I'm a couple of weeks ahead now, but I am so excited that part of me would love to just teach it today, but there's a little problem with Wi-Fi. But just to let you know, we can look forward to that. It's a remarkable gospel. I told you that it was considered like holy ground by the church fathers. And as I have spent close to half a year now, I'm understanding that more and more. So just want to encourage you to keep coming along. And that's about all I need to say about Matthew.
Yeah. So come see us every Thursday, 3 p.m. Mountain Time from this studio right here. Usually we're on both YouTube and Facebook Live. Today we're coming from my phone, which means we're just on Facebook Live. But usually we're a little bit more professional than this, although I have to say this looks pretty good. The only thing...
Yeah.
Can I stop slouching now? Because I felt bad.
I was going to say, the only problem is he didn't actually put the phone square on the stand, obviously.
So when I checked the framing of this earlier this afternoon, I want you to know he was convinced that it was this chair, so he tried switching chairs with me, and I'm taller on that side of the screen too. I just want you to know. And then he went and got this other chair.
Yeah.
And it's still, and see, that's what happens when I sit up. No, it's ridiculous. Hey, thanks so much for being with us today, guys. We will see you again next week. We'll have Father Kenneth Tanner. God bless
you.